writing, mathematics, the wheel, legal codes, astronomy, organized agriculture, beer. One civilization invented all of it. Thousands of years before Greece, before Rome, before Egypt had built its first pyramid. They built humanity's first cities, wrote humanity's first stories, and laid the intellectual foundation that every civilization since has built upon. And we forgot they existed for nearly 2,000 years. This is Sumer, and without them, the world you live in doesn't exist. The Sumerians inhabited the region of southern Mesopotamia, modern-day southern Iraq, from roughly 4,500 to 1900 BC. They weren't the first humans, obviously, but they were the first to build what we recognize as civilization. Large urban centers, complex social organization, specialized labor, long-distance trade, and written records. Their cities, Uruk, Ur, Eridu, Nippur, Lagash, were the first true cities in human history. Uruk at its peak around 3000 BC had a population of 50,000 to 80,000 people, making it by far the largest urban center on Earth at the time. It had monumental temples called ziggurats, administrative buildings, craft workshops, and a merchant class conducting trade across thousands of miles. For context, when Uruk was at its peak, the British Isles were inhabited by scattered farming communities living in wooden roundhouses. The list of Sumerian firsts is staggering. Writing, the Sumerians invented the world's first writing system, called cuneiform, around 3200 BC. It began as a bookkeeping system for tracking grain and livestock and evolved into a full literary language capable of expressing complex ideas and stories. Mathematics, they developed the base 60 numerical system that we still use today for measuring time and angles. 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 360 degrees in a circle, all Sumerian. The wheel, first documented in Sumer around 3500 BC, initially used for pottery before being adapted for transport. Legal codes, the Code of Ur-Nammu, written around 2100 BC, is the oldest known written legal code in history, predating the more famous Code of Hammurabi by 300 years. Astronomy. Sumerian astronomers tracked the movements of planets, predicted eclipses, and created the first star catalogs. Their astronomical knowledge was so advanced it formed the basis of Babylonian and later Greek astronomy. And beer, the world's oldest known recipe, inscribed on a clay tablet, is a Sumerian recipe for beer. Some things never change. Perhaps the most extraordinary Sumerian achievement is literary. The Epic of Gilgamesh, written around 2100 BC, is the world's oldest known work of literature. It tells the story of Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, his friendship with the wild man Enkidu, his quest for immortality, and his ultimate acceptance of human mortality. It contains a detailed account of a great flood, a catastrophic deluge sent by the gods, survived by one man who built a boat and saved his family and animals. The flood story in the Epic of Gilgamesh predates the biblical story of Noah by at least 1,000 years and is strikingly similar in its details. Whether one influenced the other or both drew from a common ancient source is a debate that continues today. Sumerian civilization didn't end in a single catastrophic moment. It faded, absorbed, conquered, and eventually forgotten under successive waves of Akkadian, Babylonian, and Assyrian rule. The Sumerian language survived as a sacred and scholarly language for centuries after it ceased to be spoken, much like Latin in medieval Europe. But the culture, the cities, and the identity faded. By the time Greek and Roman historians were writing their accounts of the ancient world, Sumer had been gone for so long that they had no knowledge it ever existed. The very concept of Sumerian civilization wasn't recovered until the 19th century, when archaeologists began excavating Mesopotamian mounds and pulling cuneiform tablets from the sand. We have been reconstructing their world ever since. The Sumerians didn't vanish dramatically. They dissolved, their ideas absorbed into every civilization that followed, their inventions so fundamental that we use them daily without knowing where they came from. Every time you check the time, every time you measure an angle, every time you read a written word, you are using tools that were handed to you across 5,000 years by a civilization that most people have never heard of. They didn't disappear. They became everything. Subscribe for a new ancient mystery every week.